Do we need to have headphones on or no?
Now we can hear each other.
Okay. So Letitia beat out what you call her?
Yes.
That's a surprising.
2,000 votes.
All right.
I'll show you.
All right. Peace, everybody. Oh my God, how long has it been since we've been able to do this or fly a ship like this? I'm getting used to this again. Just trying to get my bearings. Hold on a second. All right, so welcome everybody. Welcome Houston, because this is definitely tailored and directed towards Houston. And everybody who lives in it loves it and needs to do something about the things going on, or at least talk about the things going on. It's very crucial. I'm here. I am your host for this, Steven Zorosco. I am here at the 1230, The Source. And, so much to discuss about what we're doing at the station and slowly shaping everything that we need to do to continue to grow this network that, months ago I told people on my Instagram, like, hey, I want to do something. So I'm doing it. And, while we're the kinks out and everything, let me introduce our guest for this first episode. I have, of course, the one and only María Ivonne Treviño Rodriguez. How are you doing, María?
I'm doing fantastic. Happy to be with the two of you.
I'm happy for you to be here with us as well. And then, of course, we have Biko Mandela Gray. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. It's good to be back with y'all. Man, this feels like a reunion, y'all.
I said that. I actually said that when I described it to my partner.
I'm just like, yeah, like we back in the saddle again. It feels like we're getting back to our roots. I'm feeling this.
Listen, being behind a microphone is part of my roots, and whether it was doing some music that nobody ever heard because nobody ever will hear it. It's been deleted long time since, but also doing work on radio has been something that I loved, and I did it during a time where I was doing it with all of y'all, right? So we are here now at 1230 The Source, so shout out to the morning show, Paris Ely, the legendary Paris Ely, and Ralph Cooper as well. And I'm happy to be here and just talk some politics with y'all. So I got all these cameras now working, and people on YouTube who are watching, please bear with us as we work out all these little imperfections, but so far so good. And as far as what we're here to talk about the results of the runoff elections that occurred last night. And we're gonna start basically work our way out. So let's start with Houston, right? So with Houston, we have District 18, which there was a lot that happened for this one district. 5 races, basically, 5 elections. People are tired of voting just because he passed away. They had to fill in that seat. When they were able to fill in that seat, the Honorable Sylvester Turner also passed away shortly after he got that seat. And then Greg Abbott said, you know what? We're just going to prolong this as long as possible because I don't have 2 people that I know anymore that can fill in that seat. That's how I took it, because everybody was pretty much a new face. And then you have Christian Menefee who stepped in, Amanda Edwards who stepped in, several others, but the race was really between them 2. And then they had that special election in December. Well, actually, it was November, and then they had to have the runoff election in December. And then finally, Menefee won that one. And when Menefee won that one, he literally had to jump right back into campaigning because he had to face off with Al Green. Bear with me, y'all, because this is ongoing because they redrew the district while he was doing all this.
Yeah.
So, and then we have basically out of the 2 majority black districts that were, on the map for so many years, Al Green representing one, Sheila Jackson Lee representing the other. You had one of those districts basically just eliminated, turned into one, and then Al Green said, well, I'm still going to run for Congress. But now he has to face who the incumbent is, in this case, 2-month incumbent, Christian Menefee, which now we're here today. Christian Menefee won decisively, right? It was a total 26,000 votes, and he got 12 or 14,000. And, there's a lot of questions and conversations about generations and youth and all that. So I wanted to get your thoughts first on what you think about all this, just to be here and what this means.
Honestly, I feel like we should have never had Al Green running against Christian Menefee to begin with. I think it was a very strategic move on behalf of those who decided to redistrict, to remove 2 powerhouse black people with a historic background in pushing back the administration when their people are under attack. And the intent was to dilute the power that they had. And, pit two really strong candidates against each other. And honestly, it was one of the funnest races to watch because we actually had 3 really strong candidates running against each other, which made it just so much more effective of a campaign. I think the voter turnout was insane for a reason. Everyone was paying attention because they had really good choices to pick from. And I think the candidates made each other better candidates. I think they all pushed each other in the right direction. And I think the issue with Al Green is just like, unfortunately, a pattern that voters are seeing of older folks not being able to see out their term simply due to their health. And they weren't willing to take a gamble for that to happen again.
Right.
It's honestly, in my opinion, not more critique of Al Green than of just a very specific moment in time where almost pigeon superstition made it so that his obvious history of power and strategic maneuvering in Congress wasn't enough. We needed to make sure somebody could sit in that seat for a long term. And it would be like, knock on anything that's made of wood here, insane if something happened to Christian Menefee today.
Right, because then people would say that, the seat is cursed. So.
Yeah, at that point, it was never going to be Al Green. It was going to be whoever gets the seat.
Leave it alone, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, what are your thoughts on Biko? Because there's a lot to say about the dynamics of the race, but most of all, they made it of age versus experience versus inexperience.
Well, I think Maria hit on a lot of really good points. I think the other piece that I would add here is the national dimension of this, right? I mean, if I'm not mistaken, this map gets redrawn in large part because Donald Trump knows that he's losing in the midterms, right? So he needs to find seats somewhere. And one of the easiest ways to do this, we're also seeing this in Tennessee, we're seeing this in other places, one of the easiest ways to do this is to redraw the map in a way to where you have black candidates more or less, Democratic progressive candidates more or less diluting their power base and fighting against each other in the process. And I think ultimately that's what we ended up seeing here, right? That's the conditions that make it possible for an Al Green to run, end up running against a Christian Menefee. I also agree with you, Maria, that this has a lot. I think voters are scared given this particular seat. It was very real. I just really want to reaffirm that. I mean, these are 2 major losses for Houston politics specifically, the Honorable Sheila Jackson Lee and then Sylvester Turner, who emissions, right? You put that in the parliamentary people who push people out of the, he's standing up and he's disrupting speeches. He's calling stuff out in real time. And I think in a very real way, people were starting to be drawn. And I think Green understands that this is not the time for civility, right? Right. So the question that I have now, and I'm still working. I mean, Christian Menefee definitely has a progressive, a more leftist leaning progressive on it, all those things. But is he going to play the civility game, or is he going to have this more direct? Do you see what I mean? That's my question for him once he.
Yeah, because congratulations, Christian Menefee. You're going to November, and you're going to most likely be the congressman that represents District 18. But now you have earned yourself the scrutiny of everybody who's looking for that youth to represent progressive policy, not just talking points, right? Because that's the thing is all right, they were hitting him with the, hey, you got this crypto funding that's, giving you over $1 million for your campaign. So are you going to be a tech bro, ally, or are you going to push back against data centers and all these other things? Because crypto, data centers, AI, these are all the same group of people. And so we need to really have those conversations. And then of course, social justice wise, you have to have a conversation about how are you going to be speaking up during this absolutely white supremacist administration, striking down all sorts of Black history in all the museums and public spaces and just slowly diluting away all the history that brought us to this point. Are you gonna be as outspoken as Al Green, right? Because that's the one thing I appreciate about Al Green is that he was there disrupting, waving the cane, and just saying all the things that need to be said regarding social justice. He was actually here on Sunday morning, on Memorial Day, on Monday, talking with Paris. And, I saw he had the Free Gaza, Palestinian liberation. And, we need that to continue to be part of like the conversation from our representative in this district. So
1,000%.
Exactly. I feel like Christian has all of the right policy proposals on his website.
Right.
He says all the right things. He's a very charismatic, inspiring, motivational public speaker. He's on the right side of issues often, and often on the furthest left side of it. I think he just has very big shoes to fill with regards to how he communicates when in office. I think we're expecting someone who's willing to bring the protest into the White House, just like Al Green did and how Sheila Jackson did. And I think that's his role. Like, I really hope he doesn't let us down when we expect that same.
I really appreciate you for saying that. I think, and not let us down as a representative in the sense, and this is crucial, that people need to know that Houston does have a progressive base of people. Do you know what I mean? Like, that it's not, that it's, we may not be a lot of people, but we are small but mighty, right? And I think, and it might actually be more of us now. And I think, in a very real way, letting folks know Texas is not a foregone conclusion by way of particular kinds of progressive politics.
Right.
So, I love that you brought up that Al Green is having the wristband for Gaza too, right? And I expect that Christian Menefee will do something very similar, particularly as it relates not simply to Gaza, but also to this war too. You have a president who has overreached in terms of war powers resolutions.
Right.
So how do you gum up the works? How do you say no? People in Texas and people in Houston in particular are not for this because our gas prices are going up. All these sort of basic things. So yeah.
And I just want to say this before I continue, because there are people watching on YouTube, there are people listening, and this is still a radio station, so we do have a phone number for you to call in. Because when we get in that 8 o'clock hour, if I see the phone line light up, you're going to go on air, you're going to say what you want to say, and we'll respond and all that. So the number is 713-668-1230, which is 1230 the source. Again, that's 713-668-1230. Now, I do want to say, because you mentioned the aspect of being mighty here as a progressive center of Texas. And that is true, because to expand it and then touch on some history that we're involved in, Letitia Plummer just won. First Black woman to be the Harris County judge.
Nominee.
But to win, right? The nominee. And she will win. She will win because it's good Democratic, right? Knock on wood and all that. But
yeah, exactly.
she's also...
You heard that Greg Abbott and Donald Trump plan on spending dozens of millions of dollars on Houston.
And you know what? I hope they promote that everywhere, because the more money that they spend on Houston, they're actually spending to turn out Democratic votes.
1,000%.
I hope so.
And also, she's a Muslim woman, from what I've read in the headlines. So we go from potentially a former, immigrant Colombian woman, young, to win back in 2018, and then potentially going on to the first Black Muslim woman. So, Houston is that progressive center of Texas, and it demonstrates that. And the history that I want to touch on was the fact that we had 10 years ago, in 2016, we had a hand in some of the work that happened. Basically, during the Hillary Clinton versus Trump campaign, everybody was paying attention to that, but the turnout was so low nationwide, it was actually like a historic low. But then you had Harris County break records in voting turnout. And then it swept up, cleaned house for all the Democrats, right? And then 2 years later, you get Alina Hidalgo, and then you get all the Black women judges that won during that, blue wave that just hit. That's how you have Beto O'Rourke just all of a sudden trying to investigate how this happened, and maybe we could use this momentum to turn Texas blue. And so Houston has demonstrated that. And so now it's we're looking ahead in November as potentially a reinstating that, because since that blue wave, Greg Abbott's been doing everything he could to basically just stop all the voting progress that's been happening in Houston, slowly stripping all the voting centers and the voting hours and all these things. So what are your thoughts about just the fact that Houston still remains the example for the rest of Texas of how this can be done?
I think it's a crucial. I do think about 10 years ago. I always get goosebumps when we talk about the old days, man. Because I was laughing, but I'm also, it was crazy. The country is. Many folks, who were center left and even more to the left were mourning, and we were rejoicing in a very real way because we had gotten two people out of office that were doing terrible things to Black folks, to Latino and Latina community. It was one of those things where we were sitting there in many ways we ended up with. And I think that spoke to, quite frankly, what a group of people, and we weren't big. I have to say it was not like it was 30 million of us, or it was a group of folks who became friends over time and just really stayed committed to the work and really helped to galvanize that. So I think we do have that precedent for us now. I think the question moving forward, and this is something this is a genuine question for both of you, is, are people exhausted at this point? I know that there is a progressive movement here in Houston, but are people on the ground just, Trump has beaten us over the head so much, right? Mm-hmm. Greg Abbott is continually messing with Harris County and Houston in particular. Do you think we have enough energy to withstand quite frankly, the targeted political attacks? Do you see what I'm at? Do you see what I'm at? Yeah, go ahead.
I think so.
Okay.
I think somehow Houstonians are like diamonds. Under the more pressure we're in, the better we do. To be honest, I feel like when we had that rise in political power, that was because we felt like we can't do anything nationally, but what we can do is bring change home. Yeah. That's why we were able to oust the district attorney and the sheriff, who were honestly our local Trumps.
Mm-hmm. They were
our figureheads, right? They were the people who were enforcing the laws at the local level. And we found that would be our solution to a national crisis. I think we have almost a very similar, if not stronger, ability to do that this time around, because there's a base of people who are doing it every day. People are going to county commissioners. We were the first people to go to county commissioners court. Now, the county commissioners can't go a session without hearing hours of testimony. We were the first people to go to city council and annoy the hell
that's so true.
out of those members and the mayor. And now, every single Tuesday, and now they have a public session, is filled to the brim of people advocating for safer water, to not build freeways, to protect immigrants, for the apartment ordinance. I mean, let's not forget Letitia Plummer. She is the figurehead of the apartment ordinance, the apartment inspection ordinance, which while she was there wasn't successful. But as soon as she left, people picked up that baton. They knew that it was going to amplify their political power, and they got that passed, and that was all thanks to her. And I think it was in response to big questions, we just feel like what's most tangible and in my hands is changing things right here at home.
Right. I love it. I love this. It actually brings me a lot of hope, in a very real way. And this is something that all three of us have discussed for years, and you named it earlier, Maria, that at the end of the day, we stayed local. And I think that becomes, for many of us, the political strategy. I think for me, I've moved away and I'm back now. And I think having been up in the Northeast, you're so consumed with national politics. Right? You're so consumed with, well, Trump did this, and Benjamin Netanyahu did that, and you're looking, but I think in a very real way, some of the most tangible and powerful political possibilities happen at the local level. And so I really appreciate you saying, no, not only do we have the ability to do it, we're doing it every single day.
And I think there's other cities that are a good example. I had no idea, because I don't live in New York, that Mamdani had been an assemblyman forever. Yes. And then he got into office as an assemblyman because he had been organizing the taxi workers. Yeah. It's a strategy that works. Yeah. Where people locally are organizing, they're building enough power to actually create their own little ecosystem that, frankly, exists nearly outside of the state and the federal government. That's why Greg Abbott wants to dilute our local elections
that makes total
all
sense.
the time.
And listen, you brought up Letitia Plummer, and I thought about Ndamni today, because he announced the program that they're now going to start the process of removing the properties from bad ownership and giving it to either nonprofits,
Really?
or some type of like tenant ownership, or just other systems. Because like if they have enough proof to show that those owners are not going to provide the needs and the care and the repairs and all that is required, then they don't get to keep it no more. So, and I mean, you already saw how in less than a year he balanced the budget in New York.
Listen.
And now he is funding libraries again, and now he's moving towards these like owners who are just not taking care of the buildings. Oh, and also my favorite one is the really expensive buildings, the ones that the owners of penthouses that cost millions of dollars, that they sit empty just because it's their way of them to like have the tax break written off, and also they get to say that they own a penthouse in New York, and then they don't really use it. They're talking about raising taxes on them for that, and then be able to distribute that for the city. And so like that example of what you can do at the local level really matters to me, just because you're seeing the proof. Now let's start implementing that here in Houston.
Yeah.
Right.
We just sworn in Joe, what's his name?
Panzarella.
Into city council. So he's young, progressive. So we're starting to see, hopefully, a echo effect that if New York is doing it this way, then smaller cities with a budget that's not as complex as New York can also do it. And I think that's what's hopeful.
And quite frankly, with a state, legislation that's structured different too. I mean, New York City, like more or less directly works in conversation with the state itself, and I think Houston has a little more autonomy relative to that. Although Greg Abbott's trying to put his tenterhooks in here, but I think I'm totally with you on this. Like, I think there are possibilities here, and the question is, how do we implement a progressive agenda that works here, right? Right. The DSA, in very real ways, it works in New York City the way that it works. Is there a way to do our version of that?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, whoa. What do you think, Maria?
I have thoughts. I love the DSA. I have worked with them in the past. We've all worked with them in the past. We've organized along their side. Most recently, I've also seen just how much political power they have. They've been organizing a lot at the city council level to protect immigrants and at the county commissioner's court, and it's been wonderful to see. I feel like sometimes organizations like the DSA become so bureaucratic that they get in the way of themselves. And I've seen it on multiple occasions this last election cycle, where they were unable to choose a candidate and to stand up and fight for them because the candidates were afraid to say that they were democratic socialists. And I feel like if every other criteria when it comes to policy is clearly a democratic social platform, can you understand that maybe some candidates just can't use that word in order to win because of the district that they run in?
Right.
I do feel like sometimes we're purists in the ways that don't benefit us. It's almost, I don't know.
No, I'm tracking with you on this. I think, so I was thinking about this as I was preparing for today, and I think there are two kinds of, this is the nerd in me, if you all will let me like have this for a second.
Please, go ahead.
There are two kinds of politics, right? There is formal electoral politics, and then there is the polis, like this sort of fancy Greek term that is actually questions of how do people work with each other, how do large populations sort of, how do we figure out how to work within this, large societies and stuff. And I think formal electoral politics, I think you're spot on, Maria. I think you have to be pragmatic in formal electoral politics because there's game theory behind that, right? Like it's not just, oh, I have the purest principles, I want to keep my name. There's a very real way where you have to look at election, you have to look at demographics, you've got to look at data, you've got to figure out what was the incumbent advantage. You have to do all these things and figure out what kinds of people.
It's a science.
Right? And so there's a very real way that pragmatic piece factors heavily into electoral politics. And even a leftist like me, and probably and actually all three of us in this room, there's a very real way that, like, sure, I want to be a purist at this polis level, but at the level of electoral politics, you can't do it. That's not what formal electoral politics it doesn't function that way.
And it's unfortunate because
right,
when I was studying political science, I was expecting that.
Right, 100%.
You know, if you're the best candidate and your platform is the best, and you talk to the most people, you should win.
Yep.
That is not reality,
is not how it
unfortunately.
goes. It's a wild thing. But this also doesn't mean, and this is what I love about what you're talking about in terms of policies, this doesn't mean that we should do what Democrats often do, which is just race to the middle either. Right? It means that you have to find a way to package this stuff for people to understand. I think this was what Mamdani did really, really, really well, right? He's like, listen, call me what you want to call me, but we can't afford to live here, right? And so I'm going to figure out how to make that happen. And so I'm just sharing that to say, I think us leftists on the ground, we can do a certain kind of political organizing, a certain kind of political education. I think this show is going to be one of those things. But I think you're absolutely right at the electoral level. We have to keep in mind that we've got to win those seats. And if that means, go ahead.
And it's just like being realistic, right? You go to my dad, and he would probably agree with every single bullet point in a democratic socialist platform. You tell him I'm a democratic socialist, and he's going to be like, I don't know what that means. You've lost me already.
Exactly, right?
So do we have to put a word on it when that is who we are in our essence?
Listen, I think that's absolutely correct. I think you're spot on right there. I think we have to get away from a certain kind of purity politics when it comes to, and this is weird for me to say, but I'm older now, but I think in a very real way, like electoral politics demands a particular kind of realism, and what matters for a lot of people are their everyday realities, and that's what you speak to. You don't have to get caught up in the labels, whether you're Democratic, because if we got down to brass tacks, I'm understood as a leftist, Marxist, like whatever, right? So I think there's a very, very real way that we have to do that when we come to electoral politics.
And it's an umbrella, you know? I do want to just plainly say I do not necessarily agree with people who want to play a centrist because they're afraid of not getting votes from here and there.
Right.
I would much rather, and this is just my own philosophy, lose an election when I said everything that I believe in, even if it's far left, then try to persuade a Republican whose values do not align with me.
I love it.
Like, I think at the end of the day, what matters most is, do we want to fix the same problems?
1,000%.
And most of us want to fix the same problem.
We do. I think that's the key. I love that you say that. There is a very real way that many, and I think this is the case for many Democratic politicians at the national level, they do this thing where they race to the middle and lose all of their integrity in the process. I think there's something incredibly important about being realistic, but also having integrity.
And let's go ahead and like connect that thought that you had about like the amount of work that it takes to organize this, the amount of like doors you got to knock, and advertisement you got to pay, and all that stuff. But for us who are trying to make this into a progressive movement that actually has some teeth in it, you mentioned like everything, including this platform, is a part of that effort, because we need to stop trying to like reach the national level on every campaign that we have. If we just really literally focus on local stuff, we'll be fine. It creates this defensive shell around us that national and state politics can like less and less affect us because we are organizing at this level. And that is, because this is the first episode, that is really the mission statement of this show, is connecting with folks like y'all, going on air and having folks on the phone calling, talking about who's got what going on, what mutual aid is out there, what kind of campaign needs attention, right? What kind of stuff is going on during budget season for the city, right? Like, let's be aware of how we can actually collectively make something actually happen and not just be talk. And then being able to just educate people while we're helping them mobilize without feeling like they're doing a lot of heavy lifting, because that's the other thing, is like, for the effort that people have to put into this, it takes a lot of work. People get burnt out, but people don't realize that the more involvement and participation from everybody, then the burnout is less, because all of a sudden now it doesn't feel like you're just doing the heavy lifting. And so I feel like, for us to have this moment going into these elections at this crucial state of the country, and then the state for that matter, we have to really consider how we're going to protect ourselves from what's coming, right? And if you don't have like a way to like connect with what your local efforts are, then you're really going to feel scared and lost, and like, what's going to be the next step to like actually defend yourselves. And because like politics, people like to say, I don't do politics. And then the classic response now is like, well, politics is going to do you. Mm-hmm. So, speaking to that, I want to see if there are any organizations that you may want to highlight, doing things that are on the ground. I've been a little bit out of touch just for the most part, personal life, but I do know that there has been some amazing campaigns put together for city council regarding the budget right now. Mm-hmm. You mentioned Chris Hollins has been really like getting on that, right? So do you have any information on that?
I do know that he's been hosting like a listening tour or a community, like he's hosting a series of community forums to be able to get people's opinion on where they think that the budget should be spent, allocated. I think it's really important. He's even partnering with like comedians like Mo Amer, who has that local, Mo, which touches on immigration and being Palestinian, a lot of issues that are that folks here in Houston experience and across the country. So I think he's doing a really good job of engaging community members. But honestly, I feel like I spoke about the Houston DSA earlier. I think they're doing some really good work right now. I think they are, and the Houston Progressive Caucus are working on building the local power that they're going to need to shift the political environment so that they can actually elect progressive people into power. And I think they're doing it by organizing and talking to people. Like the DSA was hosting a, instead of like a block walk, just going around the neighborhood, talking to different stores to be able to put the red cards that give people their rights whenever they're, detained. Going back to basics, I think, of talking to people where they are in the community, at their homes. I think it's something that folks lost after COVID. And as they bring it back, I think you can see it working with how they're filling up the city council chambers. I think in addition to that, organizations like Food Not Bombs continues to do amazing work. Simply doing the direct action of feeding people who need the food. Like, I think a lot of times we all question, what do I do? Should I start a nonprofit? Do I need to... And we get ourselves bogged down in the details when sometimes you just need to do the thing that people need. Like, they're hungry, I'm going to feed them. And they give people the opportunity to bring a dish, and they just feed people. And they're reliable, and they've done it forever. I think those are the kind of organizations that are meeting a need and that are doing it well right now.
Right, and that's why, because I bring up mutual aid, because since Harvey, I really saw the power of mutual aid. I remember just the way everything worked out. It saved Sylvester Turner from a major disaster and scandal, or just like a bad mark on his record, right? Because it was the most intense storm that we got, the most historic flooding, and usually that comes with a high body count. And he made one great decision, which was to not evacuate the city and the greater Houston area, because everybody would have been caught up in the highways, stuck bumper to bumper, dealing with flooding waters. But once the flood happened, and you had all these people that needed to be rescued because they were in dire situations on rooftops, or they were plugged up to machines and they needed to assistance, it was the mutual aid of like people getting on those apps with the radio, and they were on social media looking at everybody posting the emergency location that they need to be rescued from. And then you had the Cajun Navy come in from Louisiana with all their ships and boats and all that, and they start rescuing people, because we were learned that the Houston Fire Department only had 3 boats, and 2 of them weren't working, right? And they also had to contend with the fact that the fire department was extremely defunded. And I remember back then it was the chief, his name was Peña. It was Chief Peña, right? And I had a conversation with him. He said, like, yeah, we don't have funding. Our trucks are also breaking down. Like, it was like this big conversation after Harvey. But because of that mutual aid of everybody showing up and communicating and, rescuing all these people, the body count was extremely low. It was like very, like in the small double digits, right? And it was like a shock and a surprise. And like, the Houston Strong conversation happened, and everybody was talking about how great it was. And Sylvester Turner really was saved by the people to not be the mayor who had a massive disaster on his hands of the storm. And then after that, it was helping the people that needed mutual aid of like the food and the goods and the stuff for toiletries and clothes, because all their houses have been washed out. And a lot of those organizations that started then are still working with us today. West Street Recovery, and then you have those same organizations continue to work on mutual aid. And we talk about it as something that's so important because in Atlanta, in Georgia, based on that case with Cop City, the mutual aid organizations that were handing out information, they want to hit them with a RICO. So they want to demonize mutual aid because it has power. Because all of a sudden, when people realize if we collectively take care of each other, we need the government less and less.
1,000%.
But we'll start hitting up the government for our check because we're going to need resources to make sure everybody has what they need. So, that is why I emphasize mutual aid. That's why I emphasize getting in touch with your local organizations and doing this work because you never know when the next Harvey's going to hit. You don't know when the next blackout's going to hit. You don't know any of these things. So it's good to be in tune. And then in those steps of one by one, slowly you realize you created the network and you actually are a part of a city, not just living in it, right?
Yeah, what this reminds me of, listening to you both. It reminds me of, and I think people misunderstand this group publicly. It reminds me of Black Panthers in very real ways. So it's one of those things. I mean, again, I'm nerdy, so I'm actually reading some stuff on this now. But one of the things that Huey Newton actually said during the period of the Black Panthers, I bring it up because of the mutual aid piece, because of feeding people, right? His argument was, everyone sees us in the black leather with the guns in California. He was like, but the most important thing for him was making sure that kids were fed and people were taken care of. That was he said, before we do all the self-defense stuff, and you saw this during Harvey, that this spirit of mutual aid, and you saw it, which is why the RICO stuff happened in Atlanta, the spirit of mutual aid, but once everyone pitches in, the burden, the energetic burden becomes less. And I think the Panthers understood this, and Newton was sort of clear about this. Our first move is to make sure everybody's good. And once you do that, as you said, you dampen the government, the dependency upon the government in a very real way. And that opens the possibility for you to challenge the government and get what you need from the government. Do you see what I mean? So that mutual aid piece is crucial. And so I'm just echoing what you all are saying and just thinking about the historical precedent that comes, that for me is ringing in my head.
Right. Because what happens once an entire community is connected in mass level through mutual aid when the government misbehaves and does something wrong? Well, you send that message out, all of a sudden you have all of them on your front doorstep saying, you better reverse this policy right now because we're here. And I think that is obviously the biggest threat to them, is that we can't have these people all organized well and being able to communicate this fast and be able to mobilize against us this quickly. And I think that's really where that comes in. So
this is the massive piece too. It's central to, it's probably political science, it's central to social contract theory, that governments demand dependency of their citizens, right? But what happens when the citizens decide that we're no longer going to rely upon you for particular needs, right? Then the government then gets called into question. And so I think you're absolutely right about this. People become a threat when we start working together. And so these organizations that you're shouting out, these organizations that you're shouting out, I think we really need to amplify them and also get involved with them. I'm thinking about it at the level of the university. I'm a professor at U of H, and so I think in very real ways I'm looking at what undergraduate students are doing, the association, the AAUP for university professors, they're doing particular kinds of work, and it's really all at the intellectual level, which people, I guess is probably a second or third order thing, but I think at the end of the day, people are trying to get involved even at the university level to sort of engage and raise questions about political education, about what practical possibilities are available. So I'm tracking with y'all and loving it all the way down.
Yeah, you can't fight for social justice when you're hungry.
Listen. This is Newton's point.
Yeah, you need to meet the material needs of people for them to be able to even have the bandwidth to talk about I was hungry.
Listen, 100%. I'm totally there with you, and I think this is one of the things. You can put whatever label you want to put on it. I think this is one of the very simple things about what people call Marxism or historical materialism. Marx's point fit a very basic level. It was also Huey Newton's point. It was also, for what it's worth, Martin King's point, is that ultimately, if you can't eat, you can't find ways to live life.
Right.
And these basic material, if you don't have shelter, right? If you don't and how do you even create a life if the things that you need to materially sustain you aren't there? And so how do we develop ways to share resources so that everyone can eat
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, that becomes and then from there, then we build and build and build. So it's not go straight to the leather and the guns, right? It's how do we feed people? I love that. Yeah.
Okay, and I think that's a great way to start segueing into like the main course, I would say, because it goes into national politics, and we're starting to move towards close to 8 p.m. hour, where I definitely want to welcome any listeners and viewers to call in at 713-668-1230. That is 713-668-1230, because we're about to jump into the conversation about how do we eat and how do we have these situations where nationally we are going through a gas crisis, which hasn't completely hit. Now, I'm going to frame this around the way that the national conversation is injected through the now determined race for the Senate between James Talarico and Ken Paxton. And this is going to be a big one because the whole point is, can Texas turn blue, right? Because what happened last night is Trump has yet again had another victory, and whoever he picks as a Republican gets the nomination. It was a landslide for Ken Paxton. They wrapped that up by 8 p.m. It was done. Polls closed at 7. They were already celebrating by 8 p.m. And, he went on the offensive already for Talarico.
Low T.
Yeah, so it was like low T Talarico, called him Talafrico, which I actually like. You know what I mean? Like, I would own that one. I am Talafrico. You're about to find out. But, yeah, going to try to hit him with all the anti-woke conversation and all that. So I want folks who are listening and want to join in the discussion. In 20 minutes, we're going to have that conversation. I have a camera pointed right at the phone, so you can see it's right here. So as soon as these light up right here, I'm going to start going one by one in order, whether your comments or questions. So 713-668-1230, 713-668-1230. But back to this race that we have going on with Talarico is, I have named him, my personal name is the Big White Hope. He is the Big White Hope of Texas. Not my Big White Hope, but the Big White Hope for white people, right? Because we have to be honest about the race dynamics in Texas when it comes to who has been able to achieve the ultimate seat of not just governor, but like the senator, right? I don't believe there's been a black senator for Texas, right? I don't believe there's been... Maybe
like 20, 30 years ago. I don't know. I can't remember.
If anybody knows, please let me know. Yeah. But not during these times, right? And he pulled off something that hadn't been done for the Democratic nominee, which is win the nomination without winning Houston or Dallas, which is a majority black cities, and for the nomination. And every Democratic nominee that has won that nomination has won it with Houston and Dallas. He won it without it, which means two things. One, he appealed to the rural whites because he speaks a progressive message of economic equality, and also, the Christianity part, right? Which appeals to Latinos who are very Catholic, and also have their own white identity that they have to consider when they vote. So if he was able to amass that, that's almost like a preview of how Democrats have recently, in the past 20, 30 years, or maybe ever, have always lost towards the white vote, white identity vote that doesn't allow that ceiling to finally break through for them, right? And that's why I deem him the Big White Hope, because if he does pull this off for the Democrats and turns Texas blue, is because they were able to find their Big White Hope. And so for me, the economic message is key. Ken Paxton's going to try to hit him up with all the woke stuff. And he's going to focus on, like, first of all, you got cases on you that are suspect, and you got, impeached by your own party, your own people in your staff accused you of things and confirmed things, and, your adultery and all this stuff. Like, you have issues. And one of the biggest ones is, like, I think a pedophile that he is a friend of his that, he had requested to only have 1 day in jail, and the judge was like, I'll give you 30 days. And then he was able to, like, help him, like, have that. So it's like he has a very terrible record to run on when it comes to morality and stuff. And now you're running against a pastor. So we're about to find out. So I wanted to, like, ask y'all, what do y'all think about this dynamic going on in Texas with Talarico and Paxton? Because these are going to be the loudest voices for the conversation nationally with like President Trump and the war in Iran and all these other things going on. So I wanted to get your thoughts.
You want to go, Maria? What you thinking?
I guess I personally lost hope in a statewide win after Beto's big fail. And to me, Beto was one of the most raw, authentic, left palatable in Texas candidates.
I mean, I'll push back on the authentic part because he had his Obama cadence. And
that felt authentic to people. Like, people
It did feel authentic to a lot of people, but I don't. But yeah, that's a curious. Go ahead. No,
I would say that people rocked with it more than they didn't.
Okay.
And I just don't know if Talarico hits the same amount of fervor and passion within the Democratic Party. I'd have to compare the numbers. I feel like what's interesting about what you just said is that if Talarico could win the Democratic nomination without Dallas and Houston, and in a general election where it's just Democrats running against Republicans, he's practically already won Dallas and Houston. There might actually be a there. His audience is the white, rural, middle/lower class voter who maybe has this white guilt and a sense of Christianity that pushes them to want to do the quote-unquote right thing. I just have always felt wary about that kind of audience.
Right.
Because I feel like the reason why they might be voting for Talarico might not be the reason why I would want to vote for the right candidate.
And that's true. And I would say this, I would also add the fact that, when it comes to Talarico, you have this aspect of him appealing to Latinos where Republicans might have screwed themselves in these new maps they drew. Because they drew these maps to give the Republican majority based on the 2024 numbers that Trump won Latinos all across the border towns and all that. But since Trump has gotten into office, he became so unpopular that every special election, the Republicans have lost in those same districts. It swung the other way for Democrats. So not only does he have the rural areas and the whites in those areas, he has those Latinos in these new maps that heavily may now just benefit him more. So that's the part where I'm like, there's a lot of factors happening in Talarico's favor that if they weren't there, then no chance. But I feel like this is the Democrats' best chance.
I do. I don't know. I'd have to look at the numbers too, Maria, to compare between Talarico and O'Rourke. What I will say is we might not vote for Talarico because of his Christian piece. But there are a lot of people who would hear him quoting the Gospels, for example, and that would resonate. The question becomes, what kind of campaign does he want to run? Right? I genuinely, I don't have an answer for this because I'm not on his team. I have no, I have a dog in the fight, but I don't really know. My hunch is if he runs a sort of div school campaign, by which I mean if he runs a divinity school, what I really want to do is do exactly what Jesus tells us in the Gospels, which is love your neighbor as yourself. And if he runs on this theological template, I think he has really firm footing for these rural people. That doesn't mean that'd be the reason why we would vote for him if we did. I'm totally with you on that. But I think that could be a strategic move on his part, which would be genuine, but could potentially help him win. And you juxtapose him being a good pastor guy against a Ken Paxton, right? Who's cheating on his wife, being funny with the money, hanging out with pedophiles. There's a very real way where he don't got to get in the mud with this man.
Right.
Right. There's a very real way where all he has to do is say, listen, I'm in this political thing because I do think it's possible for grace, mercy, love, faith, and hope to really galvanize a group of people. Do you see what I mean?
What I wonder is whether society wants that candidate.
In
the age of Donald Trump,
I know. You're right.
Is that what Texas wants? That is my my actual concern, and my curiosity stems there. Is it going to resonate with voters when what we're seeing is that voters are aligning more to the most radical candidate, whether it be on the left or the right?
Yeah.
Is trying to awaken, right? The centrist bear.
Yeah.
The tactic?
Right.
Or is that bear going to be asleep forever? And the whole point is you have to rally your base. And does he have a base when he's playing both sides?
That's I think, and I will say, I think you're right strategically that this is where Paxton. I was listening to some podcasts and they were talking. I think you're so right about this, that Ken Paxton is pulling a Donald Trump strategically, right? That Trump did the same thing in 2016, did the same thing in 2024. You rally your base so that they're so amped up around you that you can do no wrong. And I think Talarico doesn't have that yet. He does. I don't know who his base is, aside from people who love Jesus and don't like Ken Paxton. So I don't know but I don't know if that's enough to galvanize energy. I think what he has to do is find a way, if it's gonna work at all, he has to find a way to merge some of his. Because I looked up a little bit of his policy proposals. Some of them are pretty good. He wants term limits for congressional, which I think is absolutely important for Congress people. He wants to do some pretty interesting things. And so I think in a very real way, he has to amplify those policies, but I think he has to do it in a way that really galvanizes the energy behind. And the other piece, and this is the piece, and forgive me for going on too long about this, but this is going to be crucial for him. We think Houston and Dallas are for foregone conclusion for him, but I think a lot of people are pretty upset that Jasmine Crockett lost, and I don't know how he's going to handle. I need to see him. What is he going to do to those people who are resentful of the fact and making the claim that the only reason she lost was because she was a black woman? I personally don't think that's the case. I think her platform is pretty wild, but I think how is he going to galvanize those folks who would be his base? I think you're right about this, Maria. Who would be his base? How do you galvanize those people who are frustrated that you, white boy, got the nomination?
I think he thinks they've got nowhere else to vote.
I think he thinks that. Yeah,
that's a fact.
I've got them in the bag. I don't need to.
I think he thinks that. See, I think but I think a lot of those folks are going to say. I won't say. I think I'm worried. A lot of those folks are going to be like, "Fuck it." I mean, I'm sorry. Forget. I'm going to stay home.
Yeah.
Like for real.
That's the worry, right? Because he's assuming he's going to win Houston and Dallas, but he doesn't realize you actually have to win those.
Yeah, you're right. No, I'm totally there with you.
No, but also this is where Jasmine Crockett has to do her job and be like, vote blue no matter who, right? Mm-hmm. All right, this is who we have. This is what we'll get behind. Because at the end of the day, we have a common problem right now, and that's Trump and the MAGA base that is down for all this stuff that's going on. But also, like, we have to be in the context of people are hurting financially, and Trump's approval numbers are in the toilet.
Are in the tank, yeah.
They're in the toilet now. And the big fish to capture is the independent vote, right? Mm-hmm. The independents that really swing that. Mm-hmm. And I feel like Talarico has been focusing more on the economic issues, right? Like we need to focus more on the 1%, like tapping into that Bernie Sanders message of the 1%. Mm-hmm. I think that's what's going to help him the most, because listen, I don't know the psychology of whiteness like that, but we have a former, well, I want to call him former, he's Grand Plantner, right, in Maine. Like he is poised to be the Democratic nominee, and he's running on a anti-wealth class. He says the Epstein class type of message. And, he had a Nazi tattoo that he got covered up, and he had some questionable, problematic things they posted on Reddit years ago. And he came out and was very transparent about basically saying, like, I didn't know what the tattoo was because I was drunk with my sailor friends out in Europe, and we were in, I think he was in Poland or Norway or something like that. And they loved their Nazi stuff, emblems over there. And the tattoo shop had these cool tattoos. And I picked one, and I didn't know it was like a reference to Nazism, right?
I got questions, but yeah, go ahead.
Fine, listen, you're 20-something and drunk and dumb. Fine, got that. Your Reddit stuff, and he was honest. I would say he used vulnerability in a way that you could like not fault him for being a veteran who's going through like some type of like trauma and anger and put his life together. In other words, because he said he was not in a good place. And he just had to like reform and realize that his way of thinking was not a good way of thinking. He started to like read and do all these things to improve himself. And it's led him to this space now where he finds common ground with a lot of the struggles that people that don't look like him are suffering right now. But also this is Maine. You know? So
How many black people? I'm sorry.
Right.
Exactly.
Right. But in Texas,
real talk. Yeah.
But in Texas, which Texas is so big, you can consider that Texas is like, I saw a video that says like Texas basically like 6 different regions all put together. And Houston and Dallas is just part of like one region. And all these other regions that have
West Texas, yeah, right? North, yeah.
I say like those are the little mains out there.
The issue though with electoral politics is those are unreliable voters, right? So like if you're expecting someone to come out for the first time to vote for you, that's a lot harder than ensuring that you turn out Houston and Dallas all the way up. And so I think that's the strategy that like Beto and other statewide candidates have taken. Like if I want to win, I just have to increase the vote share in Houston, increase the vote share in Dallas, and then just win in those big cities. I think he's like, let me try something different. Let me try getting that group of people who wouldn't traditionally vote for me and get them excited. And then I assume my base is Dallas and Houston are going to win and I'm going to win them because they're going to turn out blue no matter who. And I think that undermines a Houston voter because Houstonians don't just turn out to turn out. We turn out for elections when we're excited. We saw it with the CD18, Christian Menefee. Even the District C race recently where there were a bunch of really good candidates, like they hardly had good turnout. It was better than usual, even though it was still a fraction of the electorate.
Also, people are tired of voting.
Exactly.
But November is the one that everybody knows about.
Exactly. So, but that's the question, right? Like, everyone knows November is one team against the other. The question is, will somebody who doesn't normally vote turn out because they're so excited by Talarico? I would feel like it's unlikely in my mind. I don't know if he's that exciting.
I think it's a concern for sure. I'm tracking with you. I think it's a concern for sure. I think what he needs. So I'm actually thinking along both you all's lines that like he's a great white hope and I think Democrats are looking at him and saying this is our best chance. But I'm also looking at what I'm hearing largely from students and from from other folks that particularly in Houston there's not a lot of energy around Talarico. And so on the one hand, I think national folks are looking at him and saying he is the perfect right down the middle of the road type person, right? He loves Jesus. He doesn't want to stray too far this way in terms of what he says, right? There's a very real way. I mean, now, granted, these attack ads are coming out and he's saying things about trans folks that I think are actually pretty interesting and pretty affirmative. But anyway, he's sort of like trying to navigate that. But I think in a very real way, I think you're right. Something's going to have to give in Houston in particular. I don't know about Dallas, but in Dallas might actually be worse because that's where Jasmine Crockett was from. I think in a very real way, if she doesn't, I haven't seen her do this, maybe she has. If she doesn't come out and endorse him.
Well, she did. She did like after she lost, she did release a message like.
She did. Okay.
Basically saying like we have to focus on the common enemy and all these things. Like she said.
But the question is she going to put the leg power, right? It's not an endorsement on paper is an endorsement on paper, but is she going to be going to rallies? Is she going to be organizing on his behalf? Is she going to turn out the vote in Dallas?
I would say she better because she better.
Yeah, I mean this
is existential, right?
Yeah, that's true.
I mean that's the question.
Like this is existential, right? So do your job. Your job is to help him get elected. Like you have, like Jasmine Crockett, I don't know what she's gonna do in Congress for the next couple of months that her term is done, but they haven't been doing nothing anyways, right?
Right. It's been a waiting game.
It's been a waiting game. Yeah. Like this, it's gridlock. So spend this time. She was in Houston helping out Christian Menefee.
Well, that's what I'm wondering. Has she done some version of that with Talarico? I don't know because I've seen ads where she's like, "Listen, Christian Menefee."
Well, yeah, that's coming because Talarico was actually in town. What was it? Just today or yesterday or something like that. Right. Like he came to town already. He's doing his check-ins with Houston, but also Mr. Obama himself. He showed up. He spent time with Talarico. Obama's been spending time with him and Mandani. So he understands that he's in the need of a rebrand and listen to these democratic socialist, wealth inequality conversations and how to approach the populist message. So if Obama, who is pretty much head chief in charge in the DNC, the kingmaker and everything, like he removed the Clintons from that power position a long time ago.
Right.
It's Obama now. People still love Obama.
I know they do.
And so if if Obama puts his arm around Talarico and says, like, this is my guy, you have a whole lot of aunties and uncles saying, like, I am voting for Talarico.
Right.
You know? And I think Jasmine Crockett needs to also fall in line.
My only argument against that is that was a closed-door meeting with, like, 40 people. And we all saw it online. But was it a rally with hundreds of people getting excited where Obama actually engaged the people?
I think that's coming because, like,
I hope
remember
so.
that happened just last month, and Talarico has been just waiting to see who's going to be his opponent between now and then.
I hope so.
So now is rally time. Now is like a start hitting the pavement and start talking about who Ken Paxton is and what I'm going to do.
I want them to be filling churches. I want them to be filling stadiums. I want them to be actually getting people excited. I haven't seen Latinos for Talarico. I haven't seen students for Talarico. So I feel like a lot of the grassroots fervor is still missing.
This is genuine. This is a genuine question for both of you, because I've seen. This is the one thing, whether we like it or not, whether we like him or not. It's this thing that you're talking about in terms of like energy. Donald Trump, when they love him, I mean, they love him. He's a god, right? Part of that, I think, is because people are stupid, and I'm just going to. I mean, there's a very real way that they're there for the bluster, and what I mean by stupid here is that they're not actually listening to what he's saying because he's telling them low key, "I'm about to destroy your lives," but like they don't hear that, right?
Right.
They hear the "I'm going to do this," So there's a very he lied to me. So I bring it up, but he has, for better or for worse, the man has juice.
Oh no, yeah.
Right. Like he's not now. Now he's just like a sort of old man with dementia. But in the 2016 election, he was entertaining in a way, and you saw that energy behind Ken Paxton when he won. 30 percentage points is a crazy that is a wild landslide. And my question, this is a genuine question. Does Talarico have juice like that?
Well, that was what Obama trying to do. Obama's trying to help him build that juice because he's got his own juice.
But Obama got juice.
Right.
But does Talarico... Because I think my thing is that you can... Like Jasmine Crockett, for all of her policy things I have questions about, she got juice. She's on the YouTube clips. You can hear her reading people down. Bad built butch body, whatever. You know what I mean? There's a
I wouldn't say that's juice. I think that's heat. The terms from wrestling. She could get heat, but the juice is like the kingmaker power. And Jasmine Crockett's on her way out, so she got to figure out her way back in what capacity. But before we continue, I just want to say, because it's now 8:02, so let me just go ahead and holler at the people that are online listening or watching. Please call in 713-668-1230, the source. 713-668-1230, the source. If you want to share your opinion or thoughts on these races, these results, these predictions, and what else is going on in the country, please call. We want to talk to you. We're going to be here for the next hour, and I'm talking to you. So please. All right. So go back to your thought about.
I'm thinking about juice, man. I'm thinking, is that a? Oh, that's not okay. I was on that.
Oh, that is a call.
Oh.
Keep talking.
Oh, is that? I was curious about. Is that? You're saying the difference between juice and heat? I don't know.
I think what you mean is, will she be able to actually galvanize a base and
around
excite a voter
around Talarico? Will they be?
Is it translatable?
Is his? Because it's one thing for Obama to. Obama has juice. We know this. He used to crack jokes. And that's going to get a certain amount of people. But that doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to garner excitement around him.
All right. Let's see who our first caller is and what they have to say. I have here. Hello, caller, you're on. Yes, hello. What's your name? Lydia. Hi, Lydia. How you doing? I'm Stevens. Yes. All right, you're on the air with Maria and Biko as well. What do you have to share with us?
Right. Mm. Mm.
We have James Talarico and others.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that we have a decision to make based on the feedback that we received from Talarico going up to the election. And how is he going to move in our communities? And I've seen the platform as well. Kim and Jasmine has very similar platforms, right? And they got along well throughout the campaign, but now all that. So saying that to say, Democratic leadership is one component of it, but the other component is black women or same black women that have Kamala Harris raised record number, record amount of funds for her campaign. Those people are still around, and those people were. Offended isn't the right word, but insofar as experience was concerned, Jasmine Crockett had more experience than James Talarico. And I think that that's stuck in the craw of a lot of black women, especially black women, who it seems in the 2.0 administration, are being attacked. There's a lot of black women who, are looking for jobs now. There's a lot of black women who are out here being socially attacked. As a matter of fact, Jasmine Crockett was attacked on this electability issue by his enemies.
Yes. Exactly. Exactly.
That's the yeah. Go ahead, Maria. You go. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's a hard one to thread. I think you're right that he hasn't won over the black women vote. I think a lot of times people take it for granted because it's the highest voter turnout that you can statistically get. And I think the Democratic Party takes it for granted. I also don't know if he's necessarily exciting the Latino community enough, which is a huge part of the electorate. Those two, I think those two in Houston. I think in Houston, the African American and the Latino vote is like extremely important to win the city over. And I don't think he's speaking enough about the atrocities going on with the detention centers, with the immigration enforcement that's taking place, for Latinos to feel like, that's my candidate, he's fighting for me. And I think he assumes that because a lot of us are Christian, that they're gonna side with me because of the way that I speak and my theological background, but we're not just Christians, and I think we have an issue that's crucial for a lot of us to feel like our candidate represents us, to be able to feel excited to go vote. And I don't know if he's made it enough of a priority on his campaign trail so far.
Miss Lydia, can I hop in here real quick too? I actually want to. First, I think Maria's spot on here that there's just I haven't seen a lot of energy. I also just want to echo one of your comments here that there was a huge thing, and we could like go back and litigate this, but I don't think we need to. Black women voters felt, quite frankly, shafted by this primary, this particular primary, in which he sort of won outright. And I think what Talarico had, the question, it's a difficult road for him to toe. Like I don't know if he can do this particular part, but he's going to have to gain in variable ways. He's going to have to gain first. I think he has to gain Jasmine Crockett's like full-throated endorsement. I don't think, right. I think they've got to be. I think she's got to be visibly excited about him, and even with that may not be enough. I think because what I don't think is going to happen is that a whole bunch of black women are going to end up voting for Ken Paxton. I don't think that's going to happen. What I think will probably happen is a lot of black women will probably say, I'm not really going to vote, in this particular elect. I'm just going to sort of stay home.
No, I think they'll vote. I just don't think that they'll vote for that race.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah, like that they'll leave that box unchecked. And I think what he has to do, what I think he has to do is he has to find a way, because we're in the South, and in many ways, a lot of black people are Christian. He has to find a way to turn that Christian message into one that resonates with black people. And if he can't do that, which I'm not sure that he can, if he can't do that, and on top of that, get the full-throated endorsement of Jasmine Crockett, it's going to be a tough road for him. So
Well, hopefully, I think he believes, and I'll say this last thing, I think he believes that the same way he won the primary against Jasmine with the rural vote. See, he's not going to get that with Ken Paxton.
They're going to,
I just don't think he'll get that.
I think he's gonna. I think he's gonna go. I think they're gonna go toe to toe in those areas, in part because he sounds like some of those folks. So there's a way, but that's not going to be enough for him to take him over the top, right? I think there's going to be a certain way. Polls are showing that he has a pretty good chance against Paxton relative to this, but it's not. But I think you're absolutely spot on. Dallas and Houston become very important battleground places for him, and without particularly Dallas, Houston, we're a feisty breed. We're gonna do what we want to do, But when Jasmine Crockett lost, Dallas becomes a very crucial place for that. I think he really has to spend some time, and I haven't seen him do it, and I haven't seen.
Well, then when he could spend time and I'm sorry for
No,
interrupting.
you good.
He could spend time, but see, it's what he says, and I
Exactly.
think
It's a piece
the
too.
thing that he needs to say to us, he won't be able to say those things without getting
Upsetting.
under the skin
Right.
of the other people. And so you're right. I mean, he would have to be I don't know. I just think the religious aspect, like the young woman was saying, I don't know if that's going to put him over.
Okay, but
he's not old. Maybe if he was an older guy and he was a
wait, but
I don't
how
know.
about by comparison? By comparison, right? Kamala Harris had how many days to run? 108, 104. And
Yeah.
and honestly, leading up to that, I felt like, okay, I think she's about to pull it off. I
I thought she was going to win too.
I saw the energy, all that. Is it possible? Because we have more than 104 days left to the race, right? It's
Right.
like we have 5 months left.
right.
So is it possible that Talarico doesn't have to motivate the entire country, just Texas, can do that in 5 months, can get Obama showing up to the rally, Jasmine Crockett showing up. I mean, look, they already announced that they're about to pour a lot of money into this race. So I see there's going to be massive amounts of energy and attention on this race on a national level. So you're going to see all these big faces, big names at
You
these
saw those
rallies.
for Kamala Harris, though. You saw those for Kamala Harris. This is Texas, like you were saying. It's not the rest of the country. And I don't believe a lot of Obama, people love Obama, but it's 10 years since Obama. Obama doesn't have the same, and I'm talking about in Texas. I don't know if you had to take the whole United States, possibly. But I don't believe Obama, because this autopsy, like we were saying, from Kamala Harris when she ran. I just don't think, I think that there's a lot of things that people look back retrospectively about Obama in regards to what he actually did.
Right.
You know,
That made a difference in the community. I mean, you know, he did some stuff. You know, y'all know what I'm saying. He
that's
did
actually a
some
really
stuff
good point, because
Yeah.
I wonder if the rural, centrist is a pro-Obama voter.
Well, that's the other piece that and actually what I was thinking about too is I think the comparison point here is John Ossoff in Georgia, right? So there's a way that, right? So I think if Talarico can do what Ossoff did, because Ossoff had to win those other places, and I don't know if he's going to do this. I genuinely don't have a good prediction for you here, Miss Lydia. But what I will say is, what he's going to have to do is stay competitive in the rural areas. I think he has to stay competitive there, and then hold it down in Houston and Dallas. And if he does that, he wins pretty solidly. But I think you're right. The messaging becomes and this is where Jasmine Crockett becomes an incredibly important surrogate for him. Because Obama, and I think you're absolutely right about Obama not having. So I think in a very way, like Obama, people love him. But I think Crockett actually becomes more important for this race in Texas, and I think she has to be not just seen once, and not and I think what he has to do, and I do think he has to do this publicly, is acknowledge multiple times, like Jasmine Crockett as a black woman is a fighter.
Kind of, and you know who did this?
Yeah.
He did it through, and he proved it, was Joe Biden. You know how he came out for black women as the backbone of the Democratic Party, and
He did
backed
make those
that up
claims,
with federal judge appointments, and a black woman vice president. I don't think Talarico is going to be able to garner that. I could be wrong, and I hope I'm wrong. And maybe we've seen something from him with his personality. Maybe we haven't seen something that he's been hiding from us. And I hope that that's the case. But I don't see that.
I think we have to. Yeah, I think time will tell, and I also think it's going to be. I think it's going to be tricky for him. That's what I can say. But I also will say I didn't really pay as close attention to Beto's race as I'm paying attention to Talarico's. I think he's in a position. The other piece that we all have to consider here is that a lot of people are very upset with the Trump administration right now, right? So there's the other piece of this is Ken Paxton handily won the Republican primary, but Donald Trump's numbers in the general side are really bad. Like, people don't like him in general. And so I think this is a bad calculation on Talarico's part if he's doing this and saying, well, people just don't like Trump enough, so I should be able to do it. But I also think this is a huge factor for a lot of folks. Paxton won handily the Republican primary because the question was, how much like Donald Trump can you be? The question in the general is not that question. The question during the general is going to be, who's going to bring these gas prices back down? Who's going to create the conditions where my kids can, and I think a lot of these voters who are in the middle, it's a lot of these white, like, rural, working, middle, lower class voters. They're not all MAGA, sort of. And so that becomes another dynamic that we have to add into this. And this is nothing against what you said. It's just adding this extra dynamic there too.
No,
Yeah.
I don't think you're wrong about that per se. But I do believe that the reason that Donald Trump has had such a hold, and you have not seen a lot of things moving, and you may coming into the second up to November, because at that point he will be kind of looked at as going out, lame duck president. But he's been doing a lot of unprecedented things.
He has,
and I think that he's going to promise people.
He's already done that. Yeah.
Okay, but Lydia, how about Lydia? Let me ask you a question, Lydia. It's safe to assume that you are a black woman, right?
It's safe to assume that. Yes.
Okay, so this is the part where, as far as Talarico goes, to earn your vote, I believe in just stating what you want. I think politics needs to be clearly transactional. We need to stop talking about, I'm gonna vote blue no matter who, no matter what. I believe that, no, tell me what I'm gonna get out of it. The only reason that I went to the voting booth and voted for Joe Biden begrudgingly is because he said student loan forgiveness. I'm like, all right, I'll take that. Give me something, right? And so, as a black woman, what would Talarico need to say or should say to sway or do to sway you?
Okay, and I don't know if you were listening when I initially called in, but what I said was, I believe that respectability politics is out of the window for me. I believe that you have to make sure that our communities have clean drinking water. You have to make sure that that they're environmentally safe. You need to protect, make sure our communities are protected and not over police. You need to make sure that that food insecurities are taken care of. The general things that our community talks about ad nauseum. Those things he would need to say that he is going to fight not only for that, for our representation in D.C., this redistricting. He's going to work. I mean, the things I want to hear him say, he's going to work to roll that back. He's going to work to, just get our politics to where we can represent our communities and get not for the government to necessarily per se fix them, but allow us to be able to have the representation that we need, continue to have that representation in order to move things forward. I just want those things. I want the John Lewis Voting Rights Act put into. I want to know that he's going to work towards that. And abortion rights.
Right.
I mean, that all of these things that have been rolled back with Trump's administration, I want to see reinstated. I want to see the Clean Energy Act. All of these things that we're moving forward. I want to see jobs. I don't know what you guys are seeing.
I mean, leave it to women, black women, to think about everybody else and all the things. When I ask you, what would it be for you directly, right? So I appreciate that. I appreciate that because that's the big picture, and that's why the Democratic Party, and they've said it so many times, that the most consistently loyal has been
Voting
black
bloc,
women
yeah.
voting block, and it's because you think about all the issues.
Can I hop in here? Can I hop in
And
here?
you know what, Stevens? I'm tired of it. I'm tired of
I don't
black
blame you.
women being I mean, you know, look at from Kamala to Jasmine to, you know, all these other shenanigans that have been going on out there. And Jasmine, I know y'all all have heard this, has a PAC. And, you know, we talk about Win with Black Women. Those are the ones that were behind the fundraising for Kamala Harris, and continue to work behind the scenes as a black woman, I will tell you. And I'm just, we're still here. And like a lot of them say, we sitting back and, you know, we've been observing and deciding and picking and choosing our battles. But of course, yes, a rising tide lifts all boats. That's always the approach that I believe black women in general, and I think the black and brown communities take over. I just would like to see more of a coalition between us, and that's something that, oh my gosh, I think that was solved. If y'all could get that problem solved right there.
Well, I think if I could hop in here, Miss Lydia, I'll say a couple things. One, you're you know, I don't know if you're watching the YouTube thing. Your work, we're like this Black and Brown Coalition is something that, you know, I think we're all deeply invested in, and so I just want to share with you that we are with you on that. I will tell you too, 100%. I'm totally there with you on that. I'll tell you too, and I think this is where James Talarico has an uphill battle to climb, right? An uphill mountain to climb. So many of the things that you suggested that he should be advocating for. On his website, he's advocating for those things, right? So his platform does include the John Lewis Act. He is raising those questions. Here's the thing, and this is where I think you're absolutely correct, and I think this is something that Maria touched on briefly too. We don't know that, right? So many of us. And
do you think there's a reason why we don't know that? Why don't we know that?
Go ahead, Maria.
He's teetering on both sides. He's afraid to upset the Republican centrists that he's trying to persuade to vote for him. And so he can't be real to the policies that he actually wants to be able to fight for. That's my fear. That by trying to win over both sides, he loses both.
It's going to be, and I think that Maria, I think you're raising this very real question of like this rush to the center that we're seeing Talarico sort of do. I think here's my thoughts. I think that he can, if he stays in the discourse of policy, this is not necessarily going to excite black women voters, right? If he just simply says, listen, like I'm for this, I'm for this, I'm for this, I'm for this. But what he can do with Jasmine Crockett's endorsement is just be the white man that he is and say, listen, I'm endorsing the John Lewis Voting Rights Act. I am all for independent commissions for redistricting in terms of voters. He can do his thing, but he I'm going to be honest with you, I don't know, and this is pure speculation, and maybe I shouldn't say this on the radio, but I'm going to say it.
Say it.
I'm worried that something happened in that runoff, in that race between him and Jasmine Crockett, and they're not necessarily friendly with each other. And I think he has, if he wants to win, whatever frustrations they have with each other, and whatever deal needs to be made behind closed doors, I think he has to make that deal to get that energy.
How does he make that deal, though?
I don't know. Because I don't know what she wants.
I know the answer. I know the answer. This is where the kingmaker, President Obama, former president, comes in and says, all right, so we have a 2-year plan. We need to first get through these midterms and get some major victories. Jasmine, can you please go ahead and enthusiastically endorse Talarico and hit the stump speeches and all that? And when we take back the White House,
she gets a cabinet position or something like that.
You get a cabinet position, you get this, you get that. This is the politics game.
It is a transactional side of politics.
But you know what, though? You know what? I have two doubts about that. The first doubt is with the young woman was saying, is it Maria?
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yes.
Maria, what you were saying about him, if I can't trust him to fight, to speak up and speak to the power now, I'm dang sure not going to trust him when he get behind closed doors with these people. And the other thing is with Obama, going back to that Obama ran, he served his 2 terms. The problem is with the Democratic Party leadership, which Obama is a part of, that are playing these politics and this electability politics. It's obvious to a lot of black women that they didn't want Jasmine in there because of her approach.
Yeah, that's true.
I agree with that. Mm-hmm. And I think there was an example of that locally when Sheila Jackson ran for mayor.
Mm-hmm.
It was the exact same playbook, right?
Mm-hmm.
Attack her personally, make her seem unfit to lead, and then you automatically become the only candidate that's viable. And it only happens to Black and Latino women.
Yeah. I don't know about Sheila with that. I heard you say, and you know, I think Sheila's challenge. My challenge with her, not that I could vote in the 18th because I can't, but I've said this is that the continuity part of what she needed to really do. If she would have, and we see where we are with what happened in the race with Al Green and Christian Menefee, the continuity and protecting our communities with the representation that we needed, we ended up being unrepresented for over a year, 2 years. I don't know how long it was, because we didn't have people in place. Not that you don't need to elect who you want to vote for, the best person, but these people, now I see them coming out of the woodwork, these young candidates, and I'm happy to see that. But that was something that needed to be done more of. Maria, I'm not disagreeing with you on Sheila, but I think that there were some other components that lined up with that too. And not to me, I mean, she was ill. She wouldn't have made it through that term anyway.
I was referring to the mayor. Yeah, when she ran for mayor.
And we see what's happening, and that's a real good indication of us learning from our past votes. Is the mayor in place, and what's going on with him now? And Eddie Bernice Johnson in Dallas, who's gone to God bless her soul, she showed us where she put Jasmine in place. And that's why she was in place, where she has been fighting for us ever since. And now, because of this Trump and Abbott, now she's not there anymore.
I want to hop in here. I'm with you. Miss Lee, I want to hop in here and just, so there's a couple of things that I think I just want to sort of highlight here from you.
Of course.
One, I think it is a question of Democratic Party leadership. I don't think this is the only question. I think this is one of the questions that you're underscoring, though, for sure. And what I want to say here relative to what you're saying is, one, there needs to be a bench if the Democratic Party is going to have any sort of like possibilities, right? I think we don't have a real bench. I mean, in Houston, I think there's a lot of people that could potentially run. I think there's a lot of people who have really progressive values, really powerful politics. Nationally, those folks would not, and this is where the electability piece comes in with that I think you're talking about. Nationally, those folks would not appeal to the party leadership because the party leadership is very quick to race to the middle, right? So I think there is the potential bench of people who could replace, continuity, seats wherever the case may be, but that has to be acknowledged by party leadership. With that in mind, this is where I think Barack Obama may not be the only factor, but he has an outsized influence behind closed doors where he has to, and I don't know what he's going to do. Let me be clear. I have no clue what he's going to do, but I will say Barack Obama behind closed doors can make claims and can say things to the Democratic Party leadership that could potentially push them in a particular. I don't know if it is as clean as I don't know if he went to the Democratic Party leadership and said, "Listen, Talarico's our guy," and that's how Crockett ended up getting shafted. But I
think he did.
I don't know. I'm not going to speculate. But
okay.
I'm not going to speculate. But what I will suggest here is that he does have that heavy influence. And so the question becomes, and I think this is something that I'm hearing from Maria, that I'm hearing from you. I think this is something that Talarico is going to have to really grapple with. What is he going to do with Black and brown voters, particularly in urban areas like Houston and Dallas? my strategic suggestion to him, if he deigns to listen to us on the radio, is you've got to go tuck tail and go to Jasmine Crockett and say, listen, what do we need to do so that even if we don't like each other behind closed doors, we are standing up hand in fist with each other at these rallies, and you're giving a full-throated, I think that is the primary path to him for urban victory. I
don't think Democratic leadership will allow.
I totally. That's where I think it gets difficult, because also, and this is the thing that's frustrating about the leadership of the Democratic Party. They love Jasmine Crockett for the YouTube clips when she's reading people for filth in Congress.
Yes, they use black and brown women.
Right. They love them for that.
They have a history of that.
Right.
And that's why I think you're going to see. And I'll let y'all go. I want to hear what y'all think about what the students are saying on campus and everything. But I really think that this is going to be a turning point. These midterms, I think are going to be a turning point for black and brown people. A lot of people are going to consider, and you probably will see a strong push to independence.
Yeah, I think that's going to be.
Thank you, Lydia.
Oh, go ahead. Yeah.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
No, this is. Miss Lydia brought up some really interesting and quite frankly, really exciting points for us to really think through. I think she's absolutely spot on to underscore the importance, I think, of not just black women voters, but black and brown voters in urban areas. And this is not to say that I'm counting Talarico out. I can't. No, I genuinely don't know.
Not with this moment, the zeitgeist of the country, with like the economic situation and the Republican Party looking the way. Because like, as unpopular as Trump is, that reflects on the Republican Party.
It does.
Mm-hmm.
And then populism is a real thing. Like, all the woke stuff and social justice stuff goes out the window when everybody is struggling to pay bills and eat. And they're looking at the candidates saying, look, this is how we fix that. And these are the people who are causing this. So I feel like Talarico is just falling into the right moment. That's the biggest thing. That's what he's got working for him the most. Mm-hmm. It's the right moment. Now, can he get the right coalition behind him?
That's genuinely. I think he's in a position. In this regard, in terms of timing, he's in a better position than Beto was, right? Because Beto was fighting this. He's charismatic. He had juice, but he was coming up against a kind of like populist wave that Trump was like really sort of, and I think now people understand that Trump's populism isn't populist at all, and the only pockets it fills are his own. And so I think he has that going for him in this moment. But Maria, I think you're absolutely spot on. He is going. My strategic suggestion is whatever happens behind closed doors, you go to Jasmine Crockett and you say, I'm sorry.
And before you answer, I just want to say, like, we have enough time for another caller. So if you are watching and you want to make a comment or ask a question or you want to rant a little bit and we're sharing that rant, call 713-668-1230. That is 713-668-1230. Go ahead, Maria.
I think the interesting thing is this time around, Democrats are reclaiming populism. Mm-hmm. So they're fighting populism with populism. Mm-hmm. And so they've taken a book out of Trump's and Bernie's a book. Mm-hmm. And I think they're doing it the right way. Taylor Remmitt practically flipped the seat because he was speaking populism. He grew up a Republican and then was like, I'm not reflected in the values of the sitting congressman, and I'm going to run. And he was a leading union organizer. And he was speaking specifically about socioeconomic issues. And I think that because of that very specific district, it worked for him. I think if Talarico wants to play that populism and Christianity to the middle white America and Texas, I guess. Then we need Gina Hinojosa to be the most progressive woman on the ballot so that they can off-balance each other. Like, I need her talking about immigration every day and getting that Latino out everywhere in the state. I need her talking about abortion because he's probably not going to do it because he doesn't want to upset the Christians. Like, I think they need to practically be complementary forces so that who Talarico doesn't turn out, Gina turns out, and who Gina would not turn out, Talarico does. I think that's the only way that I can actually see like statewide victory. I think in addition to that, they're probably going to, like you just mentioned, they're gonna need to rally and build trust within the Black community and the Latino community.
I think that's so right.
And I think ensuring that they have surrogates like Jasmine Crockett, like Letitia Plummer, you know, like Christian Menefee.
Yes.
Like, I think they have some really fun powerhouses that they can, work alongside to not just amplify voter turnout at the local level, but ensure that those little wins actually add up and surmount the Republican voter turnout this November. I was just looking at the numbers and I was kind of shocked. For the primary, the Democratic primary, we had 2,073,750 people vote. For the Republican primary, they had 2,166,910.
Okay, turnout was low, yeah.
So you would assume that because people are upset during the midterms that there's going to be an immense amount of primary Democratic voters. We still underperformed by about 100K compared to the Republican primary voters. So they were still able to excite their base during a midterm. This would worry me if I had a 100K gap during the primaries.
Yeah, no, this is
I
true.
can't argue with those numbers.
If numbers are indicators of energy, which I think you're absolutely spot on. Like that we need to see more of that. Honestly, I'm not counting him out. I think that there's a way that he could potentially win, but I think even though I'm not counting him out, he has a lot of. I think you're right about the trust piece, Maria. I can't. My students, after Jasmine Crockett lost, I never forget that. I'm in class and sometimes I talk about electoral politics, sometimes I don't. But I had a whole bunch of Black women students in my class, and they were just like, yeah, nah, man. They were just like, Jasmine Crockett lost. Like, I'm not really feeling this, dude. And for many of them, whether they're right or wrong, and I genuinely don't know, their read of it was Jasmine Crockett got pushed out. It wasn't that she lost, on policy platform, whatever. It was that she lost because that's how the thing got structured. And I think he has to overcome that suspicion in a place like Houston. And I don't know how he does that without. I think you're right about policy proposals. I think you're also right about about them balancing each other out. I think he has to absolutely, and I think this is super important. I think he has to absolutely make explicit overtures to Black and brown communities, to Black and Latino communities, to speak to issues that Black people are concerned about, whether it be public safety, environmental racism, which is also things in the Latino community. Like, I think he has to be able to speak to those things that we share, and also the things that are particular to our particular communities. He has to do that explicitly, because if he doesn't, I don't know how he wins these urban areas. So,
and I will add, before we add another caller here, I will add though, don't forget that we have July 15th is like the estimate deadline where the stock supply of gas and oil officially crashes for us. Right?
Oh yeah.
So prices are going to spike up. So that means
during the summer, that's going to be bad.
And then you have 3 months leading to the election. If Republicans are going to own it, I feel like all Republicans are going to own it. So first, let me go ahead and bring in our caller. Caller, you're on the air. Who am I speaking with?
Hello, this is Jay.
Jay, how you doing, Jay?
I'm good. So, in terms of Talarico, or, being able to make a deal with Jasmine Crockett or Obama, you said being able to make a deal, and something that would be acceptable to Black women in particular. I thought about Biden when he said that if he was elected, he would place a Black female on the Supreme Court. And that is what he did.
He did it, yeah.
They do that.
And so that was something, in terms of something like a cabinet position in the Democratic White House, that might be a realistic and attractive enough offer, that they could make.
It depends. I'm totally with you, and I think this question ultimately, I'm totally there with you, Jay. I think what they're going to have to do. This is going to be the question for whoever is running in 20, because I don't know who the 2028 presidential candidate is going to be on the Democratic side. And Gavin Newsom is looking like the front runner right now, but he's kind of weird. Like I'm not.
It's going to be Mark Kelly.
Mark Kelly.
Oh,
no.
Okay. Oh, Yeah, okay. If that's your prediction, my suggestion here is that whoever ends up being the Democratic candidate, Barack Obama and the leadership of the Democratic Party are going to have a conversation with that person in connection with James Talarico and Jasmine Crockett and say, listen, if this is our path to victory, she's got to be central to that, right? And I don't know. So I think I don't know if it'll end up being a cabinet position. That's the thing that I'm sort of curious what she actually wants out of this. I'm curious to see if she would want to even be on a cabinet. Maybe she would. Maybe she wouldn't. She's a lawyer. Maybe she'd want to be on a SCOTUS seat. There's some things that I could see her sort of thinking about. But yeah, I'm absolutely. I think you're right that a deal can be made. I don't know if we know about that. I don't think the wheeling and dealing on the Democratic side is as bald as it is on the Republican side. So RFK was clear that he wanted a cabinet position, which is why he threw his. I don't know if it'll be that explicit, but I think if Talarico has any chance, some kind of backdoor handshake type deal has to be done. Unless they actually really are just really cool with each other, which I don't think Jasmine Crockett and Talarico are cool with each other. So I'm with you, just sharing that.
Mm-hmm.
But also as far as the possibility of Talarico winning. Trump he does the thing that actually is true. It's better to appeal to people's hate than to appeal to their needs. And so you gotta say, hey man, don't you hate that person? Now don't you hate that person? And so I know that's what got a lot of Democrats in office in Harris County in 2016, I think it was. Either 16 or 18. Actually, a friend of mine won a county election, and he didn't do any advertising, no marketing at all. Like, I literally saw his name on the ballot, called him, hey, man, I know you was running. He said, yeah, I didn't have to do anything. Trump is the best thing ever happened to us. and he won.
Right.
Just based on anti-Trump. And so I think that literally you can talk about what the Democrats are going to do, what they're not going to do, this policy, that, but their best path to victory is, are you serious? Did you see that dude over there? And that's it. But that's all I have to say. Great show, okay?
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
That was my concern with Talarico too.
Yeah.
Is being the sensible candidate what's going to excite the electorate? I don't think that recently we've seen the most sensible, pragmatic candidate win.
Mm-mm.
So I don't know if if the pattern has changed and people they'd prefer something new or the same old thing if you're saying something that they feel like you're passionate about. It could be awful. I mean, Trump is a great example of that. Mm-hmm. And still, they just want the raw authenticity. They prefer that.
I love that you bring this up, and I love how you frame it. This is, again, the nerd in me. We call this sort of like the politics of affect, right? And the way that emotions actually become a very important indicator of electoral success. That a lot of people, it turns out, are voting with their guts and their hearts and not necessarily with their minds. And so this I think in many ways, this is what won Trump the election in 2016, right? I've never been a conservative, but policy-wise, Jeb Bush was the clean candidate, right? John Kasich was also sort of middle of the road, made the most sense. But Donald Trump, you either loved him or you hated him. And it was entertaining to watch him. And so he spiked your emotions in a very real way.
One of his top consultants, his shtick was, I'd rather be infamous than not famous at all.
Exactly. Right. I love that you're saying that. And so I think this is where Talarico too, if you can't, and this is what I hear you've been saying this whole time, Maria, is if Talarico does not find a way to get people to feel him, they've got to feel him. And I don't know what that's gonna take. I don't know. I'm thinking some compromise, some balance stuff between and also I think some backdoor handshake. But he's got to find a way to get his base to feel him.
Hope.
No,
I think one big thing right now is hope.
Hope.
Like, does he give me hope? I don't think he gives
And
me
that's
hope.
the T,
And that's what actually I was going to pick up on, because we also have to remember that people who vote in the elections, the independents, right?
Mm-hmm.
They don't align with either one. And then you have the disillusioned. And I feel like after 10 years of the Trump MAGA visceral, toxic type of style politics that has like permeated everything, and then the podcast culture and all that, I feel like people are kind of worn out of that constant toxic, just like name calling and being vicious. And maybe part of the reason why Jasmine Crockett wasn't so appealing to a lot of people was because of like they don't want that as representative in them. They want that professional, more
pragmatic,
not just pragmatic, but more measured in their responses and all that. And Talarico offers that, right? He offers like, yeah, are you tired of all this toxic back and forth? Like, I do want to see him on the debate and see how he can like actually go blow for blow. Right. But when he's like on the stump speech and talking about the things and talking in the interviews, he's not going for the low hanging fruit of like trying to incite people's, low energy, because people might be just really tired of that. They want to see somebody who does give them hope, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like hope that like we could start putting people in office that are no longer like feeding that low energy vibe, but are being real about the issues and are attacking the right places to attack. And I think like that may also be working in his favor, is that people are just exhausted of the Fox News, MSNBC, and then like podcast, Twitterverse version of politics, and they want somebody who's going to be more measured in their responses and be able to provide that sense of hope.
I think the model here is Zoran Mamdani on that, though, right? Right. I think the model here is that he gave New Yorkers. So I mean, black people literally call it Mamdanistan. Like, there's a very, and he didn't sink in the mud. It wasn't. I mean, when it came to debates, he was like, "Yeah, by the way, I know you did these things while old folks in the home." Like, he could do the blow, but what he did, and I think you're right about him. I think you're right about Talarico really needing to garner this for a lot of people. Is when I hear Talarico in the ads, he's like, "Hi, I'm James Talarico." And I'm just, it's weird that I'm saying I'm the candidate for, and it's like, no, fam, like I need you to come out here and be
robotic.
Like,
he's recreating political ads that we've seen again and again. And he's villainizing Paxton, and he's making himself out to be some kind of professional, like Obama type of candidate. But is that appropriate for the moment?
Okay, I have a question though. Did you see him on Surrounded?
No.
I haven't seen him on Surrounded.
Okay, watch him on Surrounded. Because I think a town hall would suit him very well.
A town hall, yeah, okay, yeah.
Because in Surrounded, this whole setup is you're going to be surrounded by people who are on the opposite view. Mm-hmm. So he had a whole bunch of MAGA conservatives and all that, and you could see him turn like them and like, oh, okay, right, yeah, all right, I see what you're saying. And he does it in that measured way. So I feel like maybe you haven't seen that, so you haven't seen his capacity to be able to like flip people through this kind of town hall style debating conversation.
I'll make a joke about that. I think I watched Isaiah Martin on Surrounded.
I did. I watched him on there too.
And they made him seem smart.
Right.
So
right. No.
Is that
right.
where I wanna?
But that's no. I feel you on that, because like I'm not a big fan of Surrounded, right? But that's the difference between debating people who are in the MAGA sphere and debating people who are in like the conservative independent sphere, which he had a lot of his. And then you also know that, like, because you know what the issues are, so like his responses, that he's given.
He's well educated.
And Isaiah Martin, he was just like beating up on little kids basically, and got him a job on CNN, and all he does is this little smug look and like, really, yeah, you know what I mean? Like, it's easy, but it's entertainment, and that's the low hanging fruit that we're talking about.
Right.
James Talarico, different energy, and I think that will serve him better.
But do you think? I guess my question is like Zoran Mamdani wouldn't do a Surrounded either, though, right? I don't think he would get caught up in that either. I mean, he did a debate, but I guess what I'm saying is that I look at Zoran Mamdani and I'm like, listen, you're not going to recreate New York City style like DSA politics. That's a different locale. But can Talarico, like,
there's places though. There's places.
But I'm thinking about the juice though. Like,
exactly.
yeah.
He could be working with the local like organizers in San Antonio, in Austin, in Houston,
and making little viral TikTok. That's genuinely. I'm not disagreeing.
He's got 5 months.
Literally, I'm not disagreeing. I'm not disagreeing with you, Stevens. I think he has a chance, and I think I'm just wondering if people are tired of the Fox News rah 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 and the MSNBC rah rah rah. Zora Mandani looked at it and said, "I know y'all are tired of this."
I'm talking to you.
I'm talking to
y'all.
your
Screen.
Listen, right here.
I'm not gonna do this. I'm not gonna do this like. Spend millions and millions on
just
TV
attacking
ads.
people, right?
I'm going to spend the time talking to the people that I need to excite so that they'll go out and vote for me. He was talking to the taxi drivers in their taxis. He was having dinners with different types of communities in their
his social media game was
crazy. Worship. He was educating people about the policies and how that would impact their day-to-day lives.
This is what I mean by like, and we saw the precedent for this with Barack Obama in 2008, right? That there's a very real way that manipulating social media game for a certain kind of optics really plays well, and I think on the battleground side, Stevens, you're absolutely correct. This is the great white hope, right? Like this guy. This is their best battleground option for the Democratic Party.
Come on, Rocky Marciano.
Listen, I know, real talk. But I think if he's going to do the thing in the urban centers, he's got to get on. He's got to get some kind of Zoran Mamdani type juice where you want to TikToks with a particular black celebrity, Lizzo, something like something like these people who are here. You're in there and you're like, listen, this is what I'm gonna do when I get in office.
I'll say something though. Yeah. I want it to be authentic.
Yeah.
Talarico came to Houston. He went walking around with the local sushi chef in Chinatown trying new boba.
Oh no.
I don't want that.
Oh no,
I
baby.
don't want that. It could get 100,000 watches on TikTok. I don't want that. Yeah. I want him in Chinatown in the temple, talking to the people and getting them excited and hearing what issues are affecting them in the day-to-day.
I think you're right about that.
I don't want this like CNN
I'm with you
Democrat that thinks that like a polished social media and just talking to influencers is the way to go.
I think you're absolutely right about that. And I guess maybe Lizzo was probably too strong because I'm thinking about Zoran Mamdani. He's in the trenches of the TikToks, right?
He was with the local comedians in New York.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying. Like he's in there.
He wasn't having to bring in Beyonce.
Right, exactly.
He had the local artists from Houston.
That's why I'm with you, and that's what I'm saying. I'm thinking like if he could, and it felt because it was genuine. He there's a way that, and I think Talarico has to portray and convey that genuineness. I think this is what Miss Lydia was actually sort of really highlighting by way of her saying, like, she didn't even know that this dude was invested in these, they're part of his policy platform with these particular things in terms of region. It's polished and buttoned up, and I think he's got to be like, listen, y'all, we all want to be able to vote, like just hands down, like equality matters to me. This is what I'm about, right? And just constantly bombard us with these genuine ads, videos. I think the town hall piece would be super important for him too. So I'm with you, Maria. I it has to be genuine, and also I think he needs to really show up and really garner energy. Yes. If he doesn't do that, he might make it competitive, but Beto low-key made it competitive.
Exactly, so, and he was filling stadiums. He was
that's
filling
what I'm saying, right.
Like, I want to see that. I want to see him where the people are.
Yes.
Beto did something insane, like, I grew up in the North Side. No political candidate ever held a rally over there. He held the first political rally in the North Side, in, like, the last, 30 years. That's the kind of excitement I need to see for me to believe, like, okay, he might have a chance of garnering enough support from the electorate to win over the Democrats, and on top of that, some of the centrist Republicans.
Exactly. No, this is so
true. But
the
centrist Republicans get him over the edge. He can't forget that. He has to win the Democratic base first.
I think that's where he has a lot of work to do, is to clear that ground on that base side. And this is, you did the political science work. I think this is what a lot of strategists are failing to acknowledge right now on the Democratic side. It is the base. You have to have a solid support in the base. This is how Donald Trump won in 2016. It's how he won in 2024. It is the base. I know we're coming up on time, so
No, you're perfect wrapping up there. Because all this right here for me is just the first one of many. Consistency, doing this for the community. Just for anybody who's curious, like, no, this is not a paycheck. This is not I'm not looking to grow this to become some type of like influencer thing. No, this is community radio, and I want to make this a platform for folks to be able to like find out their information, spread the information, and pour information, and then the resources and all that power will follow. Information really is power, and the way that the media conglomerates have now been consolidated with just a few families, local radio, local TV, local anything is more and more important. So I appreciate y'all for being here as like the first set of guests that are able to just share your insights and share your opinions. Hoping to do this again. I mean, like some people are going to say, oh, yeah, I should just do this every week. But I'm definitely looking for ways to make this a like rotation, because like that's the one thing I learned about the work that we did, that we burn out. Like, we get tired doing it. And for me, if I could just continue to grow and spread it with y'all, it's gonna be a dream come true in a year, 2 years, 3 years that we could say that we were able to build something special for Houston. So I appreciate y'all for being here.
I'm hype. I listen, this feels like home. Like it feels like home with y'all. So I'm super hype, and listen, I'm looking forward to us doing this again. I think we got a good vibe going. So listen, Maria, I'm happy to be here with you, and Stevens, I'm happy to be here with you.
Thank you, Maria. Thank you, Biko. And everybody out there chilling, listening to the Politics Talk on a Wednesday evening, we appreciate you. We'll be back next week. And I'm going to figure out who the guests are, but we'll be here. Peace.
Are the mics off?
All right, mics are off.
That was fun.
I'm so glad people called in.
This is like
This
is so fun. This is so good.
I was nervous.
This is so fantastic. Oh, we got to do this more often, man. Like what?
We could be the regular host and just rotate every week, so new guests and all that depend on schedule. But like
I love to be able to. If we can find a way. I don't know if I can do it every week. I can probably do every other week.
Yeah.
During the summer, I'm freer, but when the semester starts, I gotta start teaching kids and shit.
When the three of us get together talking politics, I think it's a very, very balanced spectrum.
It's so juicy too, because we all have different perspectives, but we all on the same side. Like this was fantastic.
Different sets of facts.
Yeah, exactly. I love it. Like,